from Sophie Cunningham. The Indiana Fever shock the world and win the Commissioner's Cup in Minnesota. That's right, folks, not at neutral ground. We went into the Lynx den and won.
Caitlin Clark just turned the Commissioner's Cup into her personal highlight reel again. The Fever didn't just beat the Lynx, they evicted them. Clark was out there dishing dimes, draining threes, and probably calculating Minnesota's mortgage payments mid-game. You thought she'd hold back? Please, she brought receipts and a flamethrower.
Slight troll, only because obviously Caitlin Clark didn't play in the WNBA Commissioner's Cup game, and this was a team effort that, she's part of the team, clearly, but for the win yesterday specifically, Caitlin Clark did not play a huge part. It bodes well that they're able to win without her. It bodes well for what the Fever can be going forward. Caitlin Clark's return is looming. She will be back shortly. And you have to feel the good vibes and the energy around this team right now, since DeWanna Bonner's been gone, to be honest with you.
Imagine walking into someone's house, rearranging their furniture, eating their dinner, and then dunking on them before leaving with their trophy. That's basically what Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever just did to the Minnesota Lynx in the WNBA Commissioner's Cup. Not so much a basketball game as a televised eviction notice.
Well, what a game for the Indiana Fever. I didn't think they were going to win it. I'm sure most of you didn't think they were going to win it, but they came up with the victory against the Lynx in the Commissioner's Cup to get that bag. Every single player is going to be getting around 50 to 60K from this game. That's big time money for these WNBA players that don't make that much. Shout out to the Fever for getting the win. That was an ugly game, though. More than it was a Fever win, I feel like it was a Lynx loss. They just played atrocious in that game.
Stephanie White trusted her bench players to make key plays at key moments. We saw that in the highlights with Sophie Cunningham. Also with Sid Colson, they were able to bring that spark, that energy that was required. And then I also spoke about Ari McDonald. She had those moments as well. And with those with the different sparks that you had from the different players on that Indiana Fever squad, they had that calming presence by three-time WNBA champion Natasha Howard, a true vet, just doing what was required. Then that opened up.
Let's just say the Lynx showed up expecting a spirited scrimmage. What they got was a full-blown Caitlin Clark fireworks show with a side of, why are we even here? She wasn't out for revenge. Oh no, revenge implies someone did something to her. This was domination for sport. This was Clark walking into Target Center and deciding, you know what this arena needs? My name is engraved on it.
Game, a very loose vibe in the Fever locker room, including this quote, which everyone knew would go viral the second it was uttered. Caitlin Clark off camera. I just know everybody in the league is sick. To which Aaliyah Boston said they're pissed. And you remember, Caitlin Clark was voted 9th, or technically not voted 9th, but wound up ranked 9th in All-Star votes, the way that the voting is done by fellow players. And Aaliyah Boston, same thing.
The Commissioner's Cup might be a midseason trophy, but you wouldn't know that watching Clark play. This wasn't some warm-up gig. This was her version of the NBA Finals, the Met Gala, and a roast all rolled into one. The rookie clearly didn't read the part of the WNBA script where you're supposed to earn your stripes. Nah, she grabbed the paintbrush and redrew the whole logo. Meanwhile, Minnesota looked like they just realized Caitlin wasn't a myth. That urban legend rookies whisper about in locker rooms? She's coming, she sees everything, and she can hit logos threes with her eyes closed. And then, bam, reality hit them like one of her full-court dimes. And speaking of dimes, let's take a moment to appreciate the symphony that is Clark's passing. It's not just assists, it's humiliation in motion. She threads needles like she moonlights as a seamstress.
Anyway, the Indiana Fever upset the Lynx, I guess. And most importantly coming out of this, because, guys, I'm not going to get worked over the Commissioner's Cup. I'm just not. When the NBA created an in-season tournament, I'd be a hypocrite because me and John went out there and obliterated the NBA for creating a tournament in season. I don't like these tournaments in season. But you got to play the best team in the league, or the one of two best teams in the league, and you came up with a huge win in their house. That's
One-handed no-look over-the-shoulder under-the-sole passes that make defenders question their purpose in life. You could practically hear Minnesota's defenders saying, "Wait, how did that get through?" It wasn't just flashy. It was surgical. The kind of performance where even the opposing coach probably leaned back and muttered, "Well, dang." But Clark didn't come alone. No, the fever brought the whole kitchen sink. Aaliyah Boston decided it was a great day to be a brick wall with legs. Nalissa Smith was out there vacuuming rebounds like she got paid by the board. It wasn't just Clark lighting things up. It was an entire fever dream of competent, confident, we want the smoke basketball. And the Fever bench? Absolute chaos. Every time Clark hit another three from somewhere just shy of Canada, the bench looked like a boy band getting electrocuted.
Look, the Indiana Fever looked like they were dead in the water early in this game against the Lynx. Down 13, they come back to win by 15. What shifted, in your opinion, Ari, watching this matchup?
I think the Indiana Fever are a team who is used to adversity.
Yep.
And they honestly had nothing to lose. When you are getting smacked because of runs in basketball that often happen, we know basketball is a game of runs, right?
We do.
We do. But when you're playing for $500,000, you play a little harder. You play all 40 minutes, and that's what they did. I remember the moment where I said this could get lethal when Sophie Cunningham hit back-to-back threes from the wing. I said the Indiana Fever are not backing down.
You were like, why?
And honestly, fair, because Clark was tossing in threes like she was trying to set off the fire alarm. You'd think at some point the Lynx would have just slapped a double team on her at the parking lot. But nope, they played her like she was a normal rookie. Cute. This wasn't just a win, it was a warning. A bright, blaring, neon-colored siren screaming, Caitlin Clark is not here for your preseason narratives. She's not here to grow into the league. She's here to break it, remake it, and possibly live stream it. And what makes this even spicier? The Fever had been roasted earlier in the season. Pundits were typing up obituaries for their playoff hopes. Clark was apparently overhyped, inconsistent, just a shooter. Well, look who's holding the trophy now and using it as a microphone to silence the noise. Figuratively speaking, of course. Though, let's be real, if she had grabbed the mic post-game and belted out, "Now watch me win," nobody would have stopped her.
The first real sign of winning for this team in the Caitlin Clark era. Caitlin Clark did not play this evening, still going through the day-to-day with the groin injury, and the team stepped up in her absence, and every player seemed to make their own contribution to winning. And it was like, if you can hang with the Minnesota Lynx and beat them by 15 on their home court without Caitlin Clark, when she comes back, I know the record says 9-8 right now, or 8-8. This team can compete with anybody. Do not be fooled by the record. The defensive unit that was unlocked tonight with Colson, McDonald, Cunningham, Howard, and Boston gave Minnesota so many problems.
I think it's a positive thing. Certainly having built-in fan bases, shared expenses, all of those things. I think NBA arenas and the way that we're filling NBA arenas, and we are at a point where we're outgrowing some of the smaller independent ones, and opportunities to play in these arenas is big time. And I think ownership opportunities and understanding the business model. I remember back in the early years, we were looking at the business model of the NBA and how long it took the NBA before it really took off. And I can't imagine we're that far off when you talk about the number of years that it actually took.
Meanwhile, Minnesota looked like someone unplugged their controller halfway through. Confused rotations, hesitant shots, and defensive choices that felt more like group trust exercises than strategy. At one point, a Lynx forward tried to close out on Clark from several feet away, with the sort of half-hearted energy you reserve for telling your friend, "I might come to your party." The Fever, on the other hand, looked like a team with a calendar circled in red ink. Win Cup today. There was hustle, there was chemistry, and there was that delightful arrogance that comes from realizing mid-game, oh wait, we're really good. And let's not forget what this means. A rookie-led team just took home a trophy. That's not supposed to happen. The WNBA runs on hierarchy, veterans, and slow burn success.
I think it's a positive thing. Certainly having built-in fan bases, shared expenses, all of those things. I think NBA arenas and the way that we're filling NBA arenas, and we are at a point where we're outgrowing some of the smaller independent ones, and opportunities to play in these arenas is big time. And I think ownership opportunities and understanding the business model. I remember back in the early years, we were looking at the business model of the NBA and how long it took the NBA before it really took off. And I can't imagine.
The Indiana Fever are sipping the sweet nectar of the Commissioner's Cup. Now, I've been saying that the Fever are formidable, even through the struggles so far this season, Caitlin Clark being out with injury, obviously. That's because the addition of Aari McDonald and the switch with DeWanna Bonner is a big boost for this team. That's because I've seen other trends that point in the right direction. Obviously, Aaliyah Boston is a star. Kelsey Mitchell continues to thrive. They got that production from Natasha Howard that was missing to the tune of Commissioner's Cup MVP. Role players stepped up. Sophie Cunningham, Lexi Hull's been there all season.
What Clark just did is equivalent to skipping the line at the DMV and walking out with a driver's license and the keys to someone else's car. So yeah, this was more than a win. It was a reset, a rebrand, a ruthlessly cheerful clapback to every doubter who thought Clark couldn't carry a team, couldn't lead under pressure, couldn't handle the league's physicality. And if this is just the Commissioner's Cup, imagine what she'll do when playoff banners are on the line. Buckle up. The Clark era has officially started, and it's not asking for permission.